Hey, I'm Randy, and this is RPG. Today I'm going to be taking this benchtop table saw and building this frame around it to get this DIY table saw. Stick around to see how I did it. I start by cutting a 2x4 into pieces on the miter saw to make the frame of the table saw. At this point I don't yet have a dedicated miter saw station to set up stop blocks. That'll be a future video. The frame pieces are cut to length, and here you can see where I've marked out the half laps. I've also labeled all the corners so I don't get confused later on. Now I'm just hogging out the excess with the bandsaw, and I'll clean it up on the table saw. While I was doing this, I didn't realize how badly I needed to adjust the thrust bearing on the bandsaw until I started editing the video. That's pretty bad. Okay, the excess has been removed and I'm just test fitting the pieces now. Now on to cleaning up those half laps. Just a couple of passes through the blade, then nibbling away the rest. I did this on all the pieces of the frame. And here I'm just cutting away the excess of the notch on the legs where the cross pieces will be attached. And this is part of the cut of the notch on the horizontal pieces of the frame. And now the excess is removed on the bandsaw from the horizontal pieces. And now I'll just clean it up on the table saw. Okay, here's the first part of the frame with all the half laps cut and the notches cut into the corners. Now the corner bits are going to get this support piece, which then slides into that notch that's cut into it, and that'll give me some gluing room and some screwing room to get that in there nice and stable. And that's on all four corners. Just like that. Gluing and screwing the frame together. Now here I'm just using regular old Titebond glue, drilling some pilot holes, and using 1 1/4 inch drywall screws. And of course checking to make sure it's square. Now half-lap joints are really strong anyway, but I'm using a lot of glue here just to make sure, especially on the end grain pieces of the vertical supports. I don't want this going anywhere, and that becomes even more prevalent when I put the cross pieces on. And always making sure to check for square.
Now I'm adding the cross pieces, again using plenty of glue because of the end grain. Drilling some pilot holes, but this time I'm using 2.5-inch drywall screws. And then of course checking to make sure everything is square. Not only checking the horizontal pieces but the vertical pieces as well.
So I just added those two vertical pieces there next to the legs. You can see one there and the other one there. Those are going to be support pieces for the retractable casters that I will be installing later. Now, in order to attach those, and I didn't think about it beforehand, and I don't have a pocket hole jig or anything like that, so I just had to go all Izzy Swan on it and just kind of angle the drill in and kind of hope for the best. You can see I got a little tear out on that bit on the right there, but it's in there. It's in there good. It's not going anywhere.
I had started cutting the pieces for the casters before I realized that I hadn't turned the camera on. So this is after cutting the caster bars, and here I'm just laying out the location of the hinge. It's just a regular old door hinge, and I'll show you how it all works here in a bit. And of course, drilling pilot holes and attaching the hinge using 1.25-inch drywall screws. And now I'm attaching the caster bars to the caster support pieces, again using standard door hinge and drywall screws. Can you tell that I like drywall screws? And here I'm just using the inside of my duct tape roll to mark out where I need to cut a notch for the casters to fully swivel. Something I didn't think about when I attached the caster support pieces. Planning beforehand saves you a lot of headache later. Now this is not going to compromise the integrity of the table, however. And I'm just using my jigsaw to cut those notches out. Now here I'm just using my Rockwell jigsaw to cut the 1.5-inch by 1/8-inch flat bar to length. You could use a hacksaw to do the same thing, but hey, if you got a power tool to do the job quicker, why not use it? It makes it a lot easier. These are going to attach to the foot pedal later on, and you'll see. And yes, that is a DIY band-aid on my finger. Don't ask. And drilling some pilot holes to attach the flat bar to the caster bars. I used a punch to mark the metal so that my drill bit wouldn't drift. And a little drop of oil.
Okay, so here's one of the casters. This one's on the right side of the saw, and then I got this one over here. It's identical. It's on the left side of the saw. This is based on the design by Carl Holmgren, and it's a simple lever operator with a foot pedal that pivots. So you push down on the foot pedal, and it jacks up on the thing in the back, and then you tuck it in behind these screws, and then the same thing on the other side. You push down on the foot pedal, the lever action pops it up, and it rests right into place. And now the whole thing just rolls around real easy on its casters. Real simple. And then when you're done, you push it down again, just on the foot pedal, push down, tilt it back. The weight of the saw will actually pop it up. Now the saw sits flat on the ground again, and it's not going anywhere. And of course, once the saw gets put into the top and everything like that, then it'll definitely have a lot more weight. So very simple design, but very convenient. So that's the caster system designed by Carl Holmgren that I was working off of. I watched his video 3, 4, I don't know, 6 or 7 times just to kind of get an idea how it worked. But it works great, and I'll post a link to that video in the description below. Well, that'll do it for part 1 of this build. If you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. In part 2, I'll be adding the top, putting the saw into position, and building the fence system for it. So if you want to see that, make sure you click that subscribe button as well. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.